The first time my billionaire bosses discovered my suppressants, I was trapped with them 58 floors above Manhattan, watching a tiny white pill bottle roll across the elevator floor like it had just ruined my entire life. I should have let it fall into a sewer that morning. I should have called in sick. I should have listened to the very sensible voice in my head that said, "Evan Hart, no one gets summoned to the executive penthouse at 11:43 p.m. for anything normal." But rent was due, my sister's physical therapy bill was sitting unpaid on my kitchen counter, and Blackwood Global paid overtime like they were trying to buy forgiveness from God. So there I was, clutching a stack of merger files to my chest, wearing my cheapest Navy suit, my strongest scent blocker, and the exhausted smile of a man pretending he had not built his entire adult life on one extremely illegal lie. To human resources, I was a beta. To the company health system, I was a beta. To every alpha in that glittering tower of glass and money, I was just the quiet assistant who made color-coded schedules, fixed impossible calendar conflicts, and never, ever stood too close. The truth was tucked inside my jacket pocket, rattling softly every time I breathed too fast. Emergency suppressants. Extra strength. Take only as directed. Which was hilarious, because the directions might as well have said, "Congratulations, you are one skip dose away from public disaster." The elevator doors were closing when a polished black shoe stepped between them. I looked up and forgot how lungs worked. Adrian Blackwood entered first, all 6 feet 3 inches of tailored charcoal suit, winter gray eyes, and the kind of silence that made entire boardrooms sit straighter. Behind him came Caleb Blackwood, his younger brother, blonde, sharp-smiling, and far too aware of everyone's weaknesses for a man who looked like he had never been denied anything in his life. Great. Perfect. Wonderful. I was sealed in a mirrored box with the two most powerful alpha billionaires in America, and my body had chosen that exact moment to start humming like a faulty power line. "Mr. Hart," Adrian said, voice low and controlled. "You are late by 40 seconds. I replied before my survival instinct could tackle my mouth to the ground. Caleb's smile widened. Brave. I stared at the glowing floor numbers and prayed for speed, mercy, or a small lightning strike. Then the elevator shuddered. The lights flickered once. My stomach dropped before the car did. The files slipped from my arms. Papers scattered across the floor. I reached down too quickly, my shoulder hit the wall, and the pill bottle slid out of my pocket, bounced once, twice, and rolled directly to Caleb's feet. No one moved. The bottle looked painfully white against the black marble floor. Caleb crouched, picked it up, and read the label. His playful expression vanished so completely it scared me more than his smile ever had. Adrian's gaze snapped to the bottle, then to me. Something in the air changed, not loud, not dramatic, just a shift in pressure, like the whole city had gone quiet outside the elevator walls. I reached for it. Caleb lifted it out of reach. "That is private," I said, and hated how thin my voice sounded. Adrian took one step closer, not touching me, but close enough that I felt the warmth of him through the cold elevator air. His eyes were no longer bored. They were focused, sharp, almost alarmed. "Evan," he said, and hearing my first name in his voice made my pulse trip over itself. "Why are you taking medication designed to erase an omega?" Erase an omega was such an elegant way to say ruin my life that for one stupid second, I almost appreciated it. Then my brain caught up, my pulse launched itself into the ceiling, and I reached for the bottle again like dignity was something I could still rescue from Caleb Blackwood's hand. "Give it back," I said. Unfortunately, my voice chose that moment to tremble, which was rude, because I had spent years training it not to. Caleb turned the bottle slowly between his fingers, reading the tiny pharmacy label with the focused horror of a man realizing the fire alarm was not a drill. "This is not a standard suppressant," he said. "No kidding, genius. That is why it says emergency." His eyes flicked up. "Beta employees do not carry emergency omega suppressants." The elevator felt smaller. Too small. Mirrored walls, soft gold lighting, two alpha billionaires staring at me, and my lungs acting like air had become a luxury subscription I could no longer afford. Adrian did not look angry. Somehow that was worse. Anger I understood. Anger had edges. His expression was controlled, but underneath it, something colder and more dangerous than rage moved through his eyes. Concern. Real concern. I hated it immediately. "I can explain," I said, which was a bold lie, because every possible explanation sounded like a felony, a medical crisis, or the opening scene of a cautionary documentary. The elevator gave another small jolt. I grabbed the brass rail. Adrian stepped forward on instinct, one hand lifting as if to steady me, then stopping in midair. He stopped. He actually stopped. Like he remembered I had not given permission. The tiny mercy of it almost cracked me open. Then the first wave hit. Warmth crawled up the back of my neck. Not painful, not sharp, just unmistakable. My scent blocker failed in pieces, like glass splintering silently behind my skin. I felt it before they reacted, that private shield I had trusted for years peeling away one invisible layer at a time. Caleb inhaled once, then went perfectly still. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Oh," Caleb said softly, and for once there was no teasing in it. "Evan, do not," I warned, though I had no idea what I was warning him not to do. "Notice me. Name it. Make it real. Pick one." Adrian removed his suit jacket with slow, careful movements and held it out, not pushing it onto me, not crowding me, just offering. "Put this around your shoulders. I do not need your coat. There are at least 12 alpha executives on this floor." His voice stayed calm, but the words landed like a door locking, and the emergency ventilation system just stopped with the elevator. My stomach turned cold. Caleb was already tapping his watch, pulling up security controls. "I am sealing the executive level." Panic sparked bright and stupid in my chest. "You are locking me in?" "I am keeping everyone else out," he said. "There is a difference." I wanted to believe him. That was the problem. I wanted it so badly I almost did. Then a red light blinked above the elevator panel, and a smooth, automated voice filled the car. "Biological compatibility alert detected. Blackwood private security protocol activated." Adrian looked up sharply. Caleb went pale. I clutched the railing hard enough for my fingers to ache. "What does that mean?" I asked. Neither brother answered fast enough. The silence did it for them. Somewhere beneath my fear, beneath the failing medicine and the ruined lie, a terrible understanding opened its eyes. I was not just an Omega trapped in an elevator with two alphas. The building had recognized me as something much worse. Someone compatible with the Blackwood bloodline. The elevator did not move for 11 seconds, which was apparently long enough for my imagination to write a will, plan a funeral, and decide that my ghost would haunt Blackwood Global by making every printer jam during board meetings. Adrian was the first to break the silence. He pressed 2 fingers to the panel beneath the floor buttons, and a hidden screen slid open with a soft click. Of course the Billionaire elevator had secret Billionaire buttons. Of course it did. "Override to medical recovery level," he said. His voice was so steady that I wanted to throw something at him for having functioning nerves. The automated system chimed. "Protocol confirmed." "Absolutely not," I said, gripping the rail harder. "I'm not going anywhere with either of you." Caleb looked at me, then at my white-knuckled hand, and his face softened in a way I did not trust. "Evan, you are shaking. That is because I am furious. You are also standing in a stalled elevator with a failing suppressant in your bloodstream." "Thank you for the weather report, Caleb." A corner of his mouth twitched, but he wisely did not smile. Adrian stepped back as far as the elevator allowed and placed his jacket on the rail beside me, still not touching me. The lining was dark silk, expensive and warm, carrying a faint scent like cedar, snow, and something clean I refused to find comforting. "No one is asking you to trust us," Adrian said. "I am asking you to cover your scent until we get you somewhere with filtration." I hated that he was making sense. I hated even more that my body, traitorous little committee of bad decisions, relaxed the second I wrapped the jacket around my shoulders. It swallowed me, heavy and soft, making me look like a confused intern who had been adopted by a luxury coat. The elevator started moving sideways. Sideways. I stared at the doors. Did this thing just go sideways? Caleb nodded. "Private transfer shaft. Rich people are ridiculous." "Frequently," Adrian said. That almost made me laugh. Almost. Then the doors opened into a hallway I had never seen in the employee maps. White walls, dim amber lights, an air so clean it felt like stepping into winter. 2 security guards stood at the far end, but Adrian lifted one hand, and they immediately turned away. No staring. No questions. No whispers. That unsettled me more than panic would have. He led the way to a door marked Blackwood Bonding Recovery Suite. I stopped so fast Caleb nearly ran into a plant. No, I said. Definitely no. That sounds like the kind of room human resources pretends does not exist. Caleb rubbed the back of his neck. The staff has a nickname for it. Adrian shot him a warning look cold enough to freeze coffee. Caleb closed his mouth. Too late. My stomach dropped. I have heard the rumors. Adrian turned back to me. For the first time, his control slipped. Not into anger, but something almost pained. The rumors are wrong. He reached into his pocket, removed a key card, and held it out flat on his palm. This room locks from the inside. Only from the inside. If you enter, you control the door. I stared at the card, then at him, then at Caleb, who had gone unusually quiet. Every instinct told me to run, but my knees had filed a formal complaint and resigned. So I took the card. My fingers brushed Adrian's palm for half a second, and the security lights above the door turned gold. The lock opened before I used the card. Caleb whispered, "That should not happen." Adrian looked at the glowing panel like it had betrayed him personally. I stepped back. Why did the door recognize me? Neither of them answered. Inside, the room waited in soft white silence, and, for the second time that night, Blackwood Technology seemed to know more about my body than I did. The room was nothing like the rumors, which somehow made it worse. I had expected velvet curtains, gold furniture, maybe a dramatic portrait of some ancient alpha ancestor judging me from a wall. Instead, the suite looked like the most expensive hospital room in New York City had been redesigned by someone afraid of sharp corners. Soft white lamps, pale wood floors, a couch wide enough to sleep on, a bed tucked beneath a canopy of filtered air vents. No locks on the outside, no cameras that I could see, no chains, no nightmare. Just quiet, clean luxury, and my own panic bouncing around inside my ribs like a trapped bird. I stood by the door with Adrian Blackwood's jacket still wrapped around my shoulders, clutching the key card like it was the last piece of my personality. Caleb stayed in the hallway, hands raised in surrender when I glared at him. "For the record," he said carefully, "I regret the nickname comment." "For the record," I snapped back, "I regret meeting both of you." "Fair." Adrian ignored Caleb and crossed to a control panel near the wall. He touched the screen once, and every visible security lens in the ceiling turned black. Then he pulled a slim silver device from the panel and set it on the table. "Medical privacy mode," he said. "No recording. No remote access. The system will only track temperature, air quality, and emergency vitals." "How comforting," I muttered. "My billionaire boss has a panic room with bedside manners." Caleb looked like he wanted to laugh, and also like laughing might end his career, which improved my mood by half an inch. Before anyone could say more, a side door opened, and a woman in navy scrubs stepped in carrying a tablet. She was maybe 50, calm-faced, with silver hair pinned at the back of her head and the exhausted eyes of someone who had seen rich people make every possible problem worse. "Evan Hart," she asked. "I am Dr. Marisol Vance. I specialize in Omega endocrine care. No one examines you without consent. No one receives your medical details unless you approve. These two are standing here only because you have not told them to leave." I blinked at her, then at Adrian, then at Caleb. "Leave," I said immediately. Caleb stepped back at once. Adrian hesitated for exactly one heartbeat, then nodded and moved to the hall. The door closed between us with a soft click. My knees nearly gave out from the relief of it. Dr. Vance noticed, because of course she did. Doctors and grandmothers always knew when a person was being held together by spite and cheap coffee. She guided me to the couch, not the bed, which I appreciated with my entire anxious soul. She scanned the bottle Caleb had taken, tested one pill with a small portable kit, and went still. I hated stillness now. Stillness meant someone had discovered a new reason my life was on fire. "This is not only a suppressant," she said quietly. "It has been altered." My mouth went dry. "Altered how?" She turned the tablet, so I could see a diagram of chemical markers I did not understand and absolutely did not want to understand. "It has been masking your natural scent profile and disrupting your cycle regulation. Long-term use could make you collapse without warning." The room tilted slightly. I laughed once, sharp and wrong. "Great. Wonderful. My medicine is secretly evil. That feels very on brand for today." Her expression softened. "Where did you get it?" "A clinic in Queens. Cash only. No questions." She typed something, then paused. "Evan, your profile is rare. Recessive omega genetics are often hidden for years, especially under blockers. But your compatibility markers with the Blackwood line are unusually high. I stared at her. Please define unusually without making me want to climb out a window. She did not smile. High enough that someone may have known before you did. The words settled slowly, each one heavier than the last. Not an accident. Not bad luck. Not just one stupid bottle falling in an elevator. Someone had given me those pills. Someone had hidden what I was. Someone had let me walk into Blackwood Global like a signed delivery. Outside the door, Adrian's shadow moved beneath the frame. For once, I did not feel trapped by him. I felt trapped by whoever had arranged for him to find me. Dr. Vance gave me electrolyte water, a blanket, and the kind of look that said she had watched too many frightened Omegas pretend they were fine. I drank half the bottle too fast and immediately coughed, because apparently even hydration wanted to humiliate me. When she opened the door, Adrian and Caleb were standing exactly where I had left them, one on each side of the hall, like very expensive guard dogs trying not to look like guard dogs. Caleb straightened first. Adrian looked at Dr. Vance, then at me, and did not ask a single medical question. That should not have mattered. It mattered so much I hated him for it. Mr. Hart has authorized me to say only this, Dr. Vance said. The medication was altered, continued exposure is unsafe, and he should not be alone for the next 72 hours. He also needs legal protection before any internal security investigation begins. Caleb's face lost all its color. Internal. Someone with access to corporate health records may have known what he was, she said. My stomach twisted. There it was again. What he was. Not who. What. Like I had become a file, a marker, a rare genetic footnote that rich men whispered over polished tables. Adrian's expression went still in that terrifying way of his, but his voice stayed quiet. Evan, I can put you in a hotel under private medical security tonight. No, the answer came out before I planned it. All three of them looked at me. Wonderful. Excellent. Love being the main event in my own breakdown. I pulled the blanket tighter around my shoulders and forced my voice to hold. If someone inside your company helped hide this, then a hotel does nothing except move me to a different room with softer pillows. I need records. I need access. I need a lawyer who is not secretly loyal to your family. Caleb blinked. Then, slowly, his mouth curved. You are negotiating during a medical crisis. I am multitasking. That is annoyingly impressive. I get that a lot from people who annoy me. For one brief second, Caleb actually laughed. Not loudly, not cruelly, just a startled sound that cracked the tension like light through blinds. Adrian did not laugh. He walked to the small table. Outside the suite, took a leather folder from one of his assistants who appeared silently and vanished just as fast, then placed the folder on the couch near me, keeping 3 feet of space like the distance was written into law. Temporary protection contract, he said. 30 days. Housing at the Blackwood estate or any secure location you choose. Independent counsel paid by the company, selected by you. Full access to your employment file, clinic payment trails, security footage, and internal medical logs. No bond. No claim. No physical contact without consent. You may leave at any time. My throat tightened. It was too neat. Too prepared. You just had that lying around? Caleb looked away. Adrian answered. My mother was an Omega in a family that thought protection meant control. She made me promise I would know the difference. The room went quiet. Even my panic paused to listen. I opened the folder with hands that were still not entirely steady. The legal language blurred, but the clauses were there, plain and cold and real. I found a pen on the table, clicked it once, and added one sentence beneath the consent section in large, ugly handwriting. No one decides what happens to my body except me. I slid it back. Adrian read the sentence for a long moment. Then he signed directly beneath it. Caleb signed next, his usual smirk gone. When the pen came to me, I hesitated. Signing felt dangerous. Not signing felt worse. So I wrote Evan Hart on the line and told myself it was not surrender. It was strategy. Then Adrian's phone buzzed. He checked the screen, and the controlled mask on his face cracked. What? Caleb asked. Adrian turned the phone so we could see a security still from the lobby dated 3 months earlier. It showed me entering Blackwood Global for my final interview. Behind me stood a man from my Queens clinic, handing an envelope to a Blackwood board member. My breath stopped. Caleb swore under his breath. Adrian looked at me. eyes dark with a promise he did not speak aloud. The trap had not started tonight. It had started the day they hired me. By sunrise, Blackwood Global looked less like a company and more like a crime scene wearing Italian marble. Adrian had the executive floor emptied. Caleb had 3 security teams reviewing old access logs, and I was sitting in the recovery suite wearing borrowed sweatpants, drinking ginger tea from a cup that cost more than my electric bill. Dr. Vance had insisted I rest for at least 6 hours. My body had agreed by turning me into a useless blanket burrito on the couch. My brain, unfortunately, was still performing circus tricks. 3 months earlier, someone from my clinic had stood behind me in the lobby and handed an envelope to a Blackwood board member. 3 months earlier, I had thought my biggest problem was whether my tie looked cheap. It had, but apparently the tie was not the emergency. "You need sleep," Adrian said from the doorway. He had changed into a black shirt with the sleeves rolled to his forearms, which felt personally inconsiderate. No man should look that composed after spending the night discovering corporate conspiracy, illegal medication, and me. Especially me. I pointed at him with the tea. "You need to stop appearing silently. It is a villain habit." I knocked. "You knock like a rich person." Quietly, with confidence. Behind him, Caleb leaned against the hall wall holding a bakery box. "I brought bagels. Sesame, everything, cinnamon raisin, and one gluten-free option that tastes like punishment." My stomach betrayed me with a loud, tragic growl. Caleb beamed. "The Omega has spoken." I glared. "Call me that again, and I will pour tea into your loafers." Fair boundary. Adrian stepped aside as Caleb set the box on the table. Then both of them backed away, as if I were a suspicious raccoon guarding treasure. It should have been funny. It was funny. It was also the first time all morning that no one looked at me like a medical file. I chose an everything bagel and ate half of it with the focus of a man rebuilding civilization. While I chewed, Caleb slid a tablet across the table without entering my reach. "Your lawyer confirmed the contract amendments. She is extremely terrifying. I like her. I picked the first name Dr. Vance recommended." "You picked well." She called Adrian a walking lawsuit. Adrian did not blink. She was accurate. I almost smiled. Almost. Then the tablet lit up with my employment records, and they almost vanished. My application had been flagged before my interview. Not because of my resume, not because of my references, but because of an encrypted medical note marked compatible asset. The word sat there on the screen, ugly and sterile. Compatible asset. I set the bagel down because suddenly food felt impossible. Adrian saw my face and moved one step forward, then stopped himself. That small halt struck harder than any speech. "Evan," he said quietly, "you are not an asset." My laugh came out thin. "Your system disagrees. My system is going to be rebuilt by Monday." Caleb's voice lost its humor. "And the board member in the footage is Theodore Vale. Old money. Old rules. He has been pushing Adrian for a legacy succession plan for years." "Meaning what?" I asked, though I already hated the answer. Adrian looked toward the window where Manhattan was turning gold beneath the morning sun. "Meaning he believes family power should be secured through bloodlines." My skin went cold despite the blanket. "That is disgusting." "Yes," Adrian said. No hesitation. No polished corporate wording. Just yes. The simplicity of it steadied me more than it should have. Later that afternoon, they moved me to the Blackwood estate in Westchester because Dr. Vance wanted distance from the city tower and I wanted fewer elevators in my immediate future. The estate sat behind iron gates and maple trees, all gray stone, wide lawns, and old American money pretending it had not swallowed a castle. I expected to hate it. I planned to hate it. Then Adrian showed me the guest wing and handed me the only key. "Your room locks from your side," he said. "No staff enters without permission. Caleb and I are across the hall only if you ask." I stared at the key in my palm. It was warm from his hand. For a terrible second, I wanted to trust him. Then Caleb appeared with a paper bag. "Also, I found the good waffles from that diner in Queens you like." I froze. "How did you know that?" Caleb's smile faded. He looked at Adrian. Adrian looked back at him, sharply. My pulse began to climb again. Caleb reached slowly into his pocket and pulled out an old, folded photograph. In it, a teenage Caleb stood beside a hospital bed, younger, thinner, holding a stuffed rabbit. In the bed was a small boy with light brown hair, pale skin, and terrified gray-blue eyes. "Me." I stared at the photograph until the edges blurred, because my eyes had apparently decided to betray me before my mouth could. The boy in the hospital bed could not have been me. He was too small, too pale, too breakable, tucked under a blue blanket with a stuffed rabbit held against his chest like it was the last friendly thing in the world. Except I knew that rabbit. I knew the crooked left ear, the button eye my sister had sewn back on with purple thread, the faded ribbon around its neck. I had kept it until I was 16, hidden in a shoebox under winter sweaters, and then one day it vanished during a move from one cheap apartment to another. "Where did you get this?" I asked. My voice sounded far away, like someone had left it in another room. Caleb did not answer at first. The teasing, impossible version of him was gone. Without that smile, he looked younger and older at the same time. "I was 17, he said quietly. My mother donated money to a pediatric endocrine center in Albany. I went with her for some charity event, bored out of my mind, wearing a tie I hated, convinced rich guilt was the most annoying thing on earth." He looked down at the photograph. "Then I saw you." Adrian stood near the window, still as stone, but his hand had tightened around the back of a chair. He knew this story. Of course he did. Everyone in the room knew pieces of my life except me, which was becoming a theme, and I did not care for it. "I do not remember you," I said. Caleb nodded like that hurt exactly as much as he deserved. "You were sedated most of the time. They told everyone you were a foster case with a rare immune condition. But I heard you crying in the hallway one night. You kept asking for someone named Lily." My chest squeezed so sharply I had to sit down on the edge of the bed. Lily, my little sister. Back then she had been 5, all missing teeth and stubborn curls, waiting with neighbors while adults told her I was at a special clinic getting better. I had forgotten the crying. Or maybe my brain had folded it away to protect itself, like an unpaid bill shoved into a drawer. "What happened?" I asked. Caleb swallowed. "I told my mother." She started asking questions. "By morning, the center tried to transfer you. My mother stopped it. She got you discharged into a legitimate hospital, then placed with a social worker outside their network." He gave me a tired, humorless smile. "I was very proud of myself for approximately 6 hours. Then you disappeared from the system." Adrian finally spoke. "We looked for you for years." I laughed once, not because anything was funny, but because my feelings had apparently reached maximum occupancy. "That sounds insane." "Yes," Adrian said. "It was." Caleb took one careful step forward, then stopped before entering my space. "The diner waffles were in the old case notes. You talked about them when you woke up. You said if you ever got out, you wanted blueberry waffles from a place under the train tracks in Queens." My throat closed. I remembered that diner too. Sticky tables, chipped mugs, my sister swinging her feet under the booth while I promised her everything would be normal someday. I had made so many promises as a child. Most of them had been impossible. So what am I supposed to do with this? I whispered. "Be grateful? Forgive you? Trust that this whole mansion full of secrets is suddenly safe because you bought waffles." Caleb flinched, but he did not defend himself. Adrian crossed the room slowly and stopped several feet away, hands open at his sides. "No. You are supposed to be angry if you are angry. You are supposed to ask questions. You are supposed to decide what we are allowed to tell you next." That did it. Not the photograph. Not the waffles. Not Caleb looking like he was carrying 12 years of guilt in his expensive shoes. It was Adrian giving me permission to feel ugly, suspicious, ungrateful, and scared. I pressed the heel of my hand against my eyes, furious that tears came anyway. Caleb placed the old photograph on the dresser and stepped back. "For what it is worth," he said, voice rough, "I never stopped wondering whether the kid with the rabbit made it." I lowered my hand and looked at both Blackwood brothers, the cold king and the charming liar, standing in the soft gold light of a room that locked from my side. For the first time since the elevator, the trap around me changed shape. It still existed. It still had teeth. But maybe, just maybe, the two alphas in front of me had not built it. Maybe they had been searching for the door. By the third evening at the Blackwood estate, I had learned 3 things. Old money houses creaked like they were keeping secrets. Caleb made terrible coffee, but excellent apologies. And Adrian Blackwood could stand outside a locked door for 20 minutes without knocking because he was apparently allergic to pressure when it involved me. I should have felt safer. I had a lawyer with a voice like polished steel, Dr. Vance, checking my medication twice a day, and two alpha billionaires treating my boundaries like sacred documents. Naturally, my anxiety looked at all that stability and said, cute, but what if disaster wore a suit? Disaster arrived at 6:43 in the evening, under the name Theodore Vale. He did not come to the estate. Men like him never touched the mess directly. He sent an invitation through legal channels, stamped with corporate authority and wrapped in the kind of polite language that made threats sound like table manners. The Blackwood board had called an emergency wellness review regarding my employment status, my altered medication, and the compatibility alert in the company system. My lawyer told me not to go. Caleb told me absolutely not, with an intensity that would have been touching if he had not been pacing like a blonde thunderstorm. Adrian said nothing for a long moment, then asked me what I wanted. That was worse. Being asked meant I had to answer like a person instead of hiding under a blanket until capitalism fixed itself. So I went, because my records were there, because Vale had used my name like property, and because some small, furious part of me wanted him to look me in the eye while I took it. Back. The review took place in a private conference suite on the top floor of a midtown hotel, neutral ground in the official email, which was rich people language for trap with nicer chairs. Adrian and Caleb came with me, but the board insisted I enter the first room alone for identity verification. My lawyer objected. Vale smiled through the glass wall. I should have walked away. Instead, I stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind me, and the lights changed from warm white to clinical blue. A hidden scanner hummed. My name appeared on the wall screen beside a medical code I had never approved for release. Then Theodore Vale spoke through the intercom, calm and grandfatherly and rotten all the way through. Mr. Hart, this process will confirm whether you are a protected employee, a medical liability, or a succession asset. My fear went quiet. Not gone. Quiet. Like a candle cupped against wind. I am a person, I said, and my voice did not shake. The system chimed, asking me to place my hand on the verification panel. I did not move. Beyond the glass, Adrian appeared in the outer room, his face pale with controlled anger. Caleb was already on his phone, probably teaching several attorneys how to fear God. Vale's voice sharpened. Refusal may affect your standing. I looked at the camera. Good. Let it show that I refused. The door unlocked 2 seconds later, not because Vale allowed it, but because my lawyer had already filed an emergency injunction and Adrian had overridden the board access with his own authority. No shouting. No chaos. Just the quiet, beautiful sound of a bad plan collapsing under paperwork. Adrian entered first, then stopped several feet away, breathing hard like the distance cost him something. Can I come closer? He asked. For words. Simple words. They landed deeper than any rescue speech could have. My eyes burned, which was unfair because I had just been very impressive. I nodded. Yes. He came only close enough to stand beside me, not in front of me, not over me. Caleb appeared on my other side, holding a folder of evidence like a weapon made of office supplies. On the screen, Vale's expression finally cracked. I looked at him through the glass and felt the strangest thing bloom inside my chest. Not safety yet, not trust entirely, but power. Mine. Theodore Vale resigned before midnight, which sounded elegant in the press release and looked much less elegant in reality, mostly because my lawyer used the phrase coordinated medical exploitation on a recorded call, and 3 board members suddenly remembered urgent family emergencies in Connecticut. By morning, the entire wellness review had become evidence. My clinic records had been frozen by court order, and Blackwood Global released a statement so carefully worded it probably needed its own therapist. I expected to feel victorious. I expected fireworks in my chest, maybe a dramatic soundtrack, possibly one of those slow-motion hallway walks people got in expensive legal dramas. Instead, I sat at the Blackwood Estate kitchen table wearing socks with tiny ducks on them, eating cold blueberry waffles while trying not to cry into the maple syrup. Freedom, as it turned out, was exhausting. Caleb sat across from me, sliding a mug of tea within reach and wisely saying nothing about the duck socks. Adrian stood near the window with his phone in one hand, watching the sunrise turn the lawn silver. He had not slept. None of us had. I could tell by the faint shadow under his eyes and the way his usual perfect stillness had softened around the edges. He looked less like a billionaire alpha carved from ice and more like a man who had spent the night holding himself back from fixing something that could not be fixed by money, signatures, or force of will. Dr. Vance arrived after breakfast with new medication, real medication this time, sealed and verified, then told me my body needed rest, routine, and absolutely no more corporate conspiracies for at least 6 months. I told her I would check my calendar. She did not laugh, but Caleb did, which counted. By noon, my lawyer confirmed that I could leave the estate whenever I wanted. No contract clause required me to stay. No emergency protocol held me there. No Blackwood name stood between me and the door. Adrian came to tell me himself, stopping outside my room even though it was open. "You are free to go," he said. Simple, careful, painfully calm. I looked around the guest room, at the key on the dresser, the old photograph beside it, the borrowed sweater folded over the chair, the half-finished cup of tea on the nightstand. For years, I had measured safety by exits. How close was the door? Could I leave before anyone noticed? Did I have enough cash for a cab? Now the door was open, and my feet did not move. What if I do not know what I want yet? I asked. Adrian's expression changed, barely, but enough. Then no one rushes you. Caleb appeared behind him, holding a paper bag from the diner in Queens. And while no one rushes you, someone feeds you. That someone is me. I am a hero. I laughed before I could stop myself, and the sound surprised all three of us. It was small, cracked, not completely happy, but real. Later that evening, I walked alone to the recovery suite at the end of the guest wing, the room everyone had misunderstood, including me. The filtered canopy glowed softly above the bed. The lock panel waited beside the door, green and silent. I stepped inside, then turned back. Adrian stood in the hallway, hands at his sides, not crossing the threshold. Caleb waited farther back, giving me space with exaggerated seriousness, like a golden retriever pretending to be a judge. "This room still only locks from my side?" I asked. Adrian nodded. "Always." I looked at the key card in my hand, then at the two men who had found my secret and, somehow, given it back to me as a choice. My life was still messy. My trust was still bruised. My future was not magically simple because a rich man had kind eyes and his brother remembered my favorite waffles. But the trap was broken. The door was open. And for once, staying did not feel like surrender. I held the door a little wider. "You can come in," I said, then lifted a finger before either of them moved. Slowly. "And Caleb, no jokes about the bed." Caleb pressed a hand to his chest. "I am wounded by your lack of faith." Adrian stepped forward first, stopping just inside the room, close enough to be present, far enough to let me breathe. In the quiet between us, something unspoken settled. Not a claim, not a contract, not a bloodline, but the beginning of a promise. For the first time in my life, I was not bound because I had been trapped. I was bound because I chose the hand reaching for mine.